In this lecture, we'll look at how to install the Promptfoo tool from GitHub and start using it in a practical way for your projects. The goal is to get the tool set up correctly and understand how it fits into your workflow so you can begin testing and evaluating your AI application more effectively. Promptfoo is an open source framework built to test LLM applications in a more systematic way. It lets you evaluate prompts, models, and generated outputs automatically, which makes experimentation much more consistent and measurable. A key idea behind Promptfoo is test-driven development for AI. Instead of relying on trial and error, you define tests and use them to validate how your application behaves. That helps teams build AI systems that are more secure, more reliable, and easier to improve over time. Promptfoo includes several practical capabilities that help developers evaluate and strengthen LLM applications. One important feature is red teaming and vulnerability scanning. This allows you to simulate potential attacks and identify weak points in prompts, model behavior, or application logic before they become real security issues. It also offers multi-model support, which makes it easier to compare results across different providers and models, including OpenAI and others. A kind of side-by-side evaluation helps teams choose the best model for quality, safety, and consistency. Promptfoo is especially valuable for test-driven LLM development because it helps teams improve both model performance and application security while keeping development more efficient and stable. A key best practice is integrating Promptfoo into your SIG pipeline. That allows you to run continuous checks as part of your normal development workflow, so issues can be caught early instead of later in production. It's also important to run vulnerability scans regularly. This helps identify potential security risks before they become larger problems and supports a more proactive approach to protecting your AI applications. Another recommended practice is using YAML-based test configurations. YAML makes tests easier to standardize, repeat, and maintain, which is essential when you want consistent, reproducible results across environments and over time. To install Promptfoo from GitHub, first make sure Node.js is installed on your machine, since it's required to run the command line tools. Next, install the Promptfoo CLI by running npm install gpromptfoo latest. This gives you the latest version of the CLI and makes it available globally. If you want access to the full project source, you can also clone the repository with github.com/promptfoo/promptfoo git. That's useful when you want to explore the codebase or work directly with the project files. Promptfoo's core configuration is built around YAML files. In practice, that means you define your prompts, your model providers, and the expected outputs in format that is easy to read and easy to maintain. One of YAML's biggest advantages is clarity. As your evaluations grow, clean structure makes it much simpler to update prompts, swap providers, or refine expected results without creating confusion in the config. Typical YAML structure in Promptfoo includes the prompt definitions, the provider settings, and the evaluation expectations. You might, for example, create descriptive evaluation that uses OpenAI's GPT-4o Mini as the provider, all within single organized configuration file. Good habit here is to validate your YAML before running evaluations. Using schemas helps catch formatting mistakes early and prevents small syntax errors from turning into bigger configuration problems. Now it's time to run your first evaluation from the command line. The CLI gives you a fast way to test locally, which is especially useful when you want quick iteration without leaving your development workflow. With Promptfoo, the key commands let you initialize your setup and start evaluations in a streamlined way. One of the biggest advantages here is live reload, so as you make changes, you can immediately see updated results and shorten the feedback cycle. The output is also very practical. You get detailed side-by-side matrices that make it easier to compare results across prompts and providers. That visibility helps you spot quality issues quickly, and it can also reveal potential vulnerabilities early in the testing process. Here, we're looking at a practical example of validating JSON output. The goal is to test prompt that generates sorted array of random integers and then verify that the response matches the expected structure and rules using schema assertions. This is especially useful when you want confidence that an API endpoint is returning data in the correct format, not just something that looks roughly right. Instead of manually checking responses, you can define those expectations in YAML configuration, which makes the test setup clear, reusable, and easy to maintain. Once that configuration is in place, you can run the evaluation with npx Promptfoo latest eval. That gives you a reliable way to confirm that the output is valid JSON, follows the schema, and meets the requirements your application depends on. For API endpoint testing, this kind of validation is important because correctness is about both content and structure. If the schema is wrong, downstream systems can fail even when the response seems reasonable at first glance. Here, the practical example focuses on real-world call summaries. The idea is to take phone transcripts and validate the AI-generated summary using hybrid assertions. YAML is used to define the test cases and the validation rules in a structured way that makes it easier to check not only whether the summary is accurate, but also whether it follows ethical expectations, such as avoiding misleading or inappropriate content. The main purpose is to make sure the summary is both reliable and responsible, especially in situations where call notes may influence decisions, records, or customer interactions. Red teaming is a practical way to strengthen application security by simulating attacks and uncovering vulnerabilities before they become real problems. The goal is to test how the system behaves under adversarial conditions and identify weak points that need attention. A common starting point is to use quick start commands to set up and run red team exercises. For example, a command like apx promptfoo at latest in a red team helps initialize the process quickly so teams can begin testing without a lot of manual setup. The key best practice is to run these attacks in pre-production environments where you can safely evaluate risk without impacting live users. It's also important to use multiple models during testing because different models may respond differently to the same attack patterns. That broader coverage helps create more complete security assessment and supports more resilient AI applications. Advanced usage often means bringing Promptfoo directly into your SIG pipeline so evaluations happen automatically as part of development. This helps teams catch issues earlier and keep testing consistent as prompts, models, and application logic evolve. Promptfoo can integrate with common automation tools like GitHub Actions and Jenkins, making it easier to run evaluations on every commit, pull request, or deployment workflow. That creates a more reliable process and reduces manual effort for the team. Another powerful option at this stage is using custom JavaScript prompts that gives you more flexibility when you need dynamic logic, reusable component, or tighter integration with your existing application code. In real-world environments, this becomes especially valuable at scale. For example, telecom companies can use Promptfoo to evaluate and manage large language model applications more efficiently across complex workflows and large teams. YAML is a great fit for practical test configuration because it's human readable and easy to maintain. When you're defining structured evaluations, that simplicity matters. You can quickly understand what test is doing and update it without digging through complex code. Basic example might be prompt template like explain concept simply, where a concept is inserted dynamically. That kind of structure makes it easy to map your testing requirements directly into configuration. The big advantage here is that YAML lets you handle even more complex test scenarios in a clean, organized way. Instead of relying on intricate scripting, you can keep your setup straightforward, flexible, and much easier to manage. Implementing red teaming in practice means actively testing your AI system the way an attacker would. The goal is to uncover vulnerabilities before they can be exploited in the real world. Red teaming is especially valuable because it simulates adversarial behavior, including attempts to manipulate prompts, bypass safeguards, or trigger unintended outputs. To automate this process, you can use the command apx promptfoo latest red team. This makes it easier to run repeatable attack simulations and review the results efficiently. A key use case is assessing AI chatbots against real-world prompt injection attacks. By automating those tests, teams can quickly identify weak points and strengthen defenses with a more consistent and scalable security process. Monitoring and performance metrics help us understand how the LLM is performing during testing. On this slide, we're focusing on three key indicators. Latency measures the time delay between request and the model's response. In this example, the latency is 50 milliseconds, which gives a sense of responsiveness during test execution. Cost tracks the monthly expense of running these tests. Here, the estimated cost is $2,000 per month, which is useful for planning and scaling automated evaluations. Accuracy represents the percentage of correct responses produced by the model during testing. At 95%, this suggests strong overall performance while still leaving room to investigate the cases where the model gets things wrong.